Well, I'm in the chapter of Luke, and I've read it, or I'm in the book of Luke, and I read all the way to chapter 7, but there's so much in each chapter, I can't just I can't just blanket cover that so far. So, chapter 1 of Luke, it's first talking about the consummation of John the Baptist. So Zachariah and Rebecca, his parents are older, and the angel Gabriel comes to Zachariah and telling him, your wife's going to have a baby, and he's going to be a prophet, and he's going to be pleasing to the Lord, and all this stuff, and you're going to name him John. And then Zachariah's going, well, how can I know this is true? You know, I'm old, and my wife's old, and the angel of God, with all authority, you know, if I say it, it's going to be so. You know, for no better word, gets a little offended. And it's like, I am with God. I stand by God every day. And they didn't have the word zip it, but you're going to zip it until that baby's born. All right? You're not going to say a word because you doubted. Okay? And oh my gosh, how many times do you tell somebody something you know to be fact, and then they doubt you, they challenge you? That's human nature, right? That's that subconscious thinking, man. It's another indicator. And so this is an angel of God, and he's got that authority behind him to fall back on. We have different, things to come. Like I remember going to SEAL training. That was my desire. I'm 5'4.5". I weighed 128 pounds soaking wet, right? And people are like looking at me like, no, that ain't gonna happen. I'm like, yeah, just get out of my way, right? Don't doubt me, right? And same thing with the Navy box team. And I love Coach Hunter, man, John Hunter. I saw him working out. They didn't look so tough. They didn't look like nothing special. And I went up and asked if I could work out. I met him at the heavy bag. I was just asking permission. And he's like, sure, who do you want to spar? I'm like, oh, can I use your gloves? I was so excited. Like, let me at him, right? And then I walked on the team, and people would come up and, and I'd be up in the ring sparring, little white guy, right? And they'd say, Coach say, who do you want to spar? And they would always point to me, and I'd be like, let's go. Come on. Then they like said, no, you're too little. I'm like, yeah, well, not when I'm standing on your chest, right? Okay, so Zachariah couldn't talk for 9 months, right? And then when the baby was born, the elders wanted to name the child after his father, Zachariah. And Rebecca's like, no, we're going to name it John. And they were like, what? So they went to ask Zachariah. He couldn't talk. He could just sign. And he signed to give him something to write with, and he wrote, the boy's name is John, and then he could talk again, right? All right. So just that part of it is so much there. There's just so much to that, right? And then, of course, Mary, the angel God comes to her and tells her that she's going to, that God's going to be with her, and she didn't really know what that meant. And they explain that, she's going to be carrying the Messiah. And then she goes to Rebecca, her cousin, and and she's pregnant, and her baby leaps in her womb, and that's like the first confirmation that Mary's carrying the baby, right? Right. And so there's this confirmation, right? So how do you discern, what's real and what's not, right? What's the truth and what's not? There's all kinds of things, okay? I know in the SEAL teams, they teach us, before you, in SEAL training, they teach us before you go to SEER school, or they teach it to you again, that if you ever get captured by the enemy, admit nothing, deny everything, make counter accusations. Then it becomes like a joke after that. Whenever somebody's caught making excuses or lying, they get caught a lie, somebody's like, will yell, admit nothing, deny everything, make counter accusations, right? That's kind of the anatomy of a lie. Okay. And you'll find people trying to get you to doubt yourself, right? And and of course, they become suspect right after that, right? Every time I catch somebody lying to me, I don't believe anything they say ever again. Never one time. All right. And my goodness. And that's common. So it's why you shouldn't lie, right? There's people that'll, I learned about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Okay. And there's a lot to it. There's 70% of the population is visual. They have to see something in order to believe it or understand it, right? You can talk to them till you're blue in the face, and if you don't show them something, you're never going to make a sale, all right? Then there's like 30% of the population is what's called kinesthetic. They weigh all their senses equally, and the way that makes them feel determines how they make what direction they're going to go. Then you have a bunch of weirdos out there that are 7% that are auditory. I'm one of those, right? I'm listening. I can look at your eyes, but all I care is that you're looking at me. My son, he's so visual, he can tell you what quadrant of your brain you're accessing. He's in sales. He's a top sales guy for Tesla. He's was in the reserves as a master at arms in the Navy, and like a cop. And he could tell by somebody's eyes whether they're lying or not. But it helps him in sales now too, right? I'm listening for when people are telling me, if how their NLP is, if they're auditory, kinesthetic, or visual. I'm listening for that, right? But I know that the majority are visual, so you always got to be showing them something. Okay? Either be an example, demonstration, or a slide, whatever, right? I was supposed to give a PowerPoint presentation last night for a Toastmasters group in Brownsville, and at the last minute they told me they didn't have enough members they canceled their meeting. I'm doing training on active shooter responses, and I always get asked, how do you profile somebody? How can you tell if somebody's gonna be like that? I'm like, well, I'm not a forensic pathologist. The if you listen to the media, you're looking for somebody who's grew up without a father. They all of a sudden they went through a bad breakup, divorce or bad breakup, and they're they may not have got a promotion at work, or they had their disgruntled employee, right? They start drinking heavy, or they're using drugs, start looking disheveled, But that's a pretty broad. That's and I'm like, I'm not. I'm not a forensic pathologist, right? I can't tell you who's going to come in and and start shooting everybody up. But when I go to these warehouses, I see their biggest vulnerability is their access control. A lot of them, some have, they don't care who comes in and out, right? The McAllen produce terminal is like, anybody can get in there, and probably they do, right? Others have the gates and the fences and the keypads, but you just push in the number and it opens right and talk to you or nothing, right? Very loose, because it's not the priority. The priority is production and sales. That's key, right? But there's a system. He was designed by one of my buddies in the SEAL teams for the Port of Long Beach, called the Beast Box, and it combines the TWIC card, Transportation Worker Identification Card, and facial recognition, and it completely eliminated it takes like less than a minute for these truck drivers to scan the TWIC card, put their face in the in the window, and get into the port. They use it for the Port of Oakland. They use it for the Port of Seattle. It's what the Coast Guard was asking for. But that would work very well for these produce warehouses. That way they know who's coming in and who's in their facility and what they're doing. All right. And if you got somebody that's kind of sketchy, that's maybe a little emotionally unstable, he doesn't have to be working for you. Okay. Now the economy is getting to the point where there's a lot of jobs out there. It's getting harder to find good people, right? And that's something that I want to go there with this. You've been hearing a lot. You don't know what to listen to. Do you hear somebody with the administration saying this is the best economy in 50 years. There's more jobs. There's more jobs, more people working than there has been for 50 years in our country, right? But then you hear these other people talking about that the overnight lending rate, and the repo activity, the repurchasing activity, where the federal government is putting out money for the overnight lending rate, which like they did in 2007 and 2008, right, which is an indicator that there's a problem with the banks, right? But then, you hear somebody from church prophesying that there's going to be all this prosperity, and that same guy who's saying that the sky is falling is a Christian. So who you listening to, right? All right. So here's the thing. You gotta pay attention to who, how they're coming up with their information. Okay. If somebody's quoting scripture to me, backing up what they're saying, I'm more apt to be listening to them. That's one. Okay. And two is, you got to pay attention. there was a guy, he's still around, Paul Dietrich. He's a famous financial advisor. 10 years ago, he talked about a bifurcation in the stock market. And what advisors and financial planners are looking for are the same thing I always look for, making sure that companies have good marketing, they have, a good supply chain. They got bringing down the cost of production on their, making sure they're profitable, right? They've got a good board of advisors that make good decisions, all right. But the main thing they're looking for now, ever since 2008, is debt. Okay. They've been worried about the banking system for a long time, or the way the banks do things, okay, for a long time. So they don't want to be messing with a company that's high in debt, because then their priority is the banks. Okay, they want them to be able to make decisions and have the capital to make a move on those decisions. All right, and so they're looking for companies with low debt and a lot in reserve to invest in. Okay, and he said that the ones that have it together, they're going to keep going up, and in the companies in the same sector but have a lot of debt, they're going to fall off the face of the earth. Okay, and well, that's happening. Okay, but the other thing is, you got 28 million baby boomers that are floating, moving through time, that haven't saved and don't have enough for retirement. But then you got a lot more, and I don't know the number exactly, that think they got it going on, but they're dependent on a state or federal pension. All right, this is crazy. A couple weeks ago, as I'm going into a church to hear this guy talking about finances for the church, my mother calls me and tells me that the state of Michigan is trying to get their hands on the $4 trillion that in pension funds from this teachers association to fix the roads, and then the state will take care of their pension. And I'm like, that's like why would anybody do that? That's like Charlie Brown and Lucy, Charlie Brown, getting coaxed into kicking that football again, right? But so here's the thing. There's going to be some catastrophe. 2020 is coming. Half of those 28 million baby boomers are coming to retirement age. And the ones that are really going to be feeling it are the ones that, and this is where the problem is, okay, the banks are concerned, and they're not giving up their money, because the banks usually, on a regular business operations, loan money back and forth to each other for the overnight lending. They'll charge a little over 1%, like 1.75%, but per night, that kind of adds up, right? They can make a lot of money doing it, but with the Dodd-Frank and the higher reserve requirements, but also the banks are like, this is a looming problem, and the main crux of it is the 14 million baby boomers plus all the baby boomers coming to retirement age that are counting on state and municipal pension funds that are not funded, the unfunded liabilities. That's the problem. Okay. And so the ones who haven't saved for retirement, not a lot's going to change for them except themselves physically. They're going to get older and things are going to be tougher, and they're not going to be able to work forever. And when they can't work anymore and they can't make money another way than their bodies, they're going to be on the dole, on the public dole, right? And that's going to strain the economy. That's going to strain the federal and the states and the municipal. Okay, it's going to be more in taxes. They're going to want more taxes, right, to pay for this. Okay, and so that's where the strain is going to come from. It's not the banks, except the banks are holding back on their money because of the rules and because they're cautious about what's going on with these block of baby boomers, these people that didn't save, okay, that don't have it together. And so what ends up happening with these people is what they do have, they're looking to make up for lost time, and they take higher risk. Been there, done that. Okay, and that's dangerous. Okay, and so this is where he who has will have more, and he who hasn't will lose what they have. Now, you hear a lot of people preach on that when it comes to money, all right? And but what that really means is faith and understanding. It's talking about the scriptures, right? But it's faith and it's understanding in anything, about money, how money works. Okay, the more you know, the better you'll be, right? The smarter you are with the money you have, the more money you're going to get. Okay, but if you don't know a lot, and then you that taking that undue risk, right? That's going to happen. That's going to happen, and then they'll really be in a bad place. Okay, so that's where the financial education comes in. Yeah, I'm your Huckleberry. All right, but that's just chapter 1. What's getting fed into me. Chapter 1 of Luke.